And we are live. Welcome, folks, to episode 3540 of the Survival Podcast. It's Tuesday. Tuesdays are almost always a Just Jack show, and today is a Just Jack show. Nobody being interviewed, no expert counsel, nothing like that. And then Tuesdays are generally days that if we're going to do any kind of current events like we did yesterday, something that goes into the world of politics or whatever, that's usually a Monday. Tuesdays, usually we take something and we explore it. And that's what we're going to do today. Today, we're going to talk about 10 service businesses that can earn you over six figures annually. And I mean, when you're done paying your expenses, you can actually profit for yourself, maybe not on paper, six figures. We'll talk a little bit about tax advantages today, too. I'm not going to go deep into that, but I just want to say right out of the gate, there's a lot of these businesses I could see you having something like $150,000 in revenue, $40,000 in hard real expenses, another $30,000 to $40,000 in what I call lifestyle expenses. Those are things that they either are phantom losses like mileage on a vehicle, or there's things that you can write off that normally you can't write off. Please talk to your CPA about that. Don't ask me which ones you can and can't, because every situation is different. And the biggest thing you have to know when you're writing things off is, if I'm questioned about this, how will I explain it? What will my legal grounds to stand on be? And that's a tax attorney and or CPA discussion. But I will just say there are lots of people out there with businesses like this. On paper, they're making $50,000 a year. In reality, their real spendable income is somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000, $120,000. It's very, very common. It's already very common in the gig industry. As soon as you step outside being a W-2 employee, with some exceptions, right? If you are a contractor, but your job looks exactly like an employee's job, a lot of that won't apply to you. This is totally different. So we're going to talk about this today. We're going to go over why service businesses make so much sense. There's a list of about 8 benefits that I have to them that we're going to go on first. Then we're going to go through the 10 businesses. The first business that I will talk about, I'm going to dig into kind of the template that I would lay out. And that template won't be an exact match to the other 9, but it will be a partial match. It will be up to you to adapt it however you see fit. And I have a bonus at the end that will involve something called function stacking, that if you're familiar with the show, you'll know. And then we'll talk about a little bit of combining formulas and things like that at the end. So this is basically for anybody that's willing to do the work, make the commitment, suffer through the first year or two of some sacrifice. This is a path out of poverty for a lot of young people. It's also a path to freedom for a lot of people who, they're not impoverished, but they don't really like what they're doing, and they don't like being controlled by somebody else. They don't like talking to their boss 4 months in advance to beg for 2 weeks off, and the boss says, I can only give you 7 days. Even though you have the PTO, can't let you off at that time because, well, that's when everybody wants off. There's a sacrifice to taking time off when you work for yourself, but you get to decide whether you do it or not. There's a lot of flexibility. So what we're talking about today is a variety of things. Future-proofing your income and your existence, because when you work for yourself, you always have the potential to get more work. You always have the potential to find more customers. You always have the flexibility, even if you have to, moving to a different market. You have so many options that a worker doesn't. So as we go through a very tumultuous future economically, which we're going to go through. I mean, if you really want to understand how screwed we are and how obvious it was that all this was coming, I invite you to, right here on YouTube, look up the term downward class migration. You'll see a much younger, much fatter Jack Spirko standing in front of a whiteboard at the office that I used to rent up in Arkansas and explain about 35 minutes of downward class migration to you and exactly what was going on and exactly what the real problem was and how inflation was really going to destroy the middle class and not all the buzzword bullshit that you get from everybody else. If you watch that video today, it will hurt your head to think about the fact that I put it out 12 years ago, because it's so strikingly accurate. And everything I say in that video, the next 12 years, it's going to happen again. And what I mean is all your problems will double in severity between now and the next 12 years. There may be some upswing in the middle here and there with some mitigation, but overall, the overall trajectory will double its misery from the last 12 to the next 12. We talked yesterday about the fourth turning. That should be about the point of the peak of the crisis and the beginning of rectification. Do with that as you will. My point is, this is a survival topic for young people that want to actually have an active life without committing 4 years of their life to an indoctrination center known as a college, and then ending up in debt for the next 20 or 30 years so that they can get a job that they can make just as much money at Starbucks with when they come out with that degree. It's a path for them. It's a path for people that just want more resilience. It's a path for people that want more freedom. And it's also a path, if it's a part-time path, toward partial retirement. It is whatever you want to make of it, because since you own it and you control it, you run it your way. So with that, before we get into it, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors of the day. Sponsor of the day, number one today, is Above Phone. Do you know you can replace big tech with your own private ecosystem? You can with Above Phone. The thing about you people don't realize about your phone. So your carrier spying on you, the device manufacturer spying on you, and the app manufacturers are spying on you. What if you could make it all go away? Well, you can with Above Phone. And if you're an MSB member, which is totally worth becoming one, you should totally be an MSB member. You can save $75 off any phone that they sell at Above Phone. And what that means is that will pay for your membership for a year and a half just from that one benefit. They're a fantastic company. They believe in freedom. And if you're like, but Jack, I have these 1 or 2 or 3 apps that are part of the regular Google Play Store or the Apple Store or whatever, and I have to be able to have these particular apps, you can create on your Above Phone a little jail, and you can stick them in there, and they only get to do what they do when you let them out. So they're only functioning when you allow them to. But Jack, that sounds so technical. I won't be able to figure it out. You get an hour of consulting from a trained consultant. After you receive your Above Phone, they will walk you through everything to transition you, not that kind of transition, to transition you from a slave to legacy devices to a freeman using a true private ecosystem. Check them out today at abovephone.com. Next up today is USA Berkey Filters. I've been working with Jeff, the Berkey guy Gleason, one way or another since 2011. That's a long time in the world of podcasting. What is that, 20, or no, it's not 20 years. It'd be 10 years, 13, 14, 15 years, 14 years. I've been working with Jeff, the Berkey guy Gleason. If you are going to pick up a Berkey water filtration system, parts for your Berkey, or other cool prepper stuff, you should check out USABerkeyFilters.com, and you should deal with the original Berkey guy. Don't get your Berkey stuff from some dude at a gun show that figured out he could be a reseller for Berkey like, yesterday or something like that. Deal with one of the top resellers for Berkey in the world, honestly, and someone who will take care of you if there's a problem at all. All right, so let's go ahead and Builder's talking about phones here real quick. I want to point something out. He says it's not your phone. Your carrier has more control over the phone. The phone manufacturer has more control over your phone. Yeah, but when you use Graphene OS and you do what you do with Above Phone, that carrier is limited in what they can do basically to when you make phone calls and texts. And if you use private messaging services, well, you go from there. Anyway, let's get on with it. And hopefully this jet won't strafe too close to the roof and you guys won't have too much background noise through it. But the F-35s are out in force today. I guess there's a lot of work being done down at Lockheed on the other side of the lake. All right, so let's start off with what makes a service business make so much sense. And it really, all of these come down to barriers to entry, and that there's not much of a barrier to entry. And I do want to caution you from not being kind of the Debbie Downer type, because people will say, well, what I really want to do is X. And in my city, county, whatever, X requires a license and a bunch of fees and approval from the Department of Making Sense. Then do something else or move. I am absolutely fed up and done with people making excuses for why they're stuck in their misery. That's not what we do here. And so most of these have no licensing or permit requirements, though in some places you may have that. So you have to pick and choose your battles in those situations. I think basically there's a pretty good cost to register any sort of business in the state of California. And honestly, my response to you if you brought up California would be, why are you in California? There's plenty of other places you can go do this. You got to get a little nomad in you if you really want to find the success you want versus what somebody else wants for you. But there is not much of a barrier of entry to getting into this and getting it off the ground. So first of all, is a low startup cost. I said under $1,000. A lot of these things we're going to talk about today, they could be started, right? Which just means that you're able to start doing one or two things for a few people for a couple $100s. I mean, like things you don't even need, but would be nice to have would be something like some cheap business cards so you can leave them behind. And some shoe leather worn off your feet, walking around and knocking on doors to get a start. And maybe not the best equipment for the job, but enough equipment to do the job until you prove out the thing and you can invest more. So when I say under $1,000, it's very conceivable 2-3 years in, you might have invested $10,000, $20,000 in your business. I'm talking about getting started, and the ability to get started up is very, very affordable. You could start pressure washing with a $600 pressure washer and the vehicle you already own. Would it be better to have a trailer and a better pressure washer and a big reserve tank of water and all? Sure, but you can get by with a cheap trailer, a couple IBCs, and a freaking car can tow that trailer if you don't have a truck. And I assume, this is another thing I'm going to say, unless the vehicle would be specialized, like you need this special vehicle to do this. So if I was going to talk about doing excavator work, that you couldn't start for $1,000 because you can't buy an excavator for a couple $1,000. Yeah, there's even a way to do that. Let's just to make a point. You're an experienced excavator operator. You can't afford an excavator. You can still do excavator work. I'll leave it to you to figure it out. If you don't figure it out right out of the gate, and as an independent business operator, you could do it. But if you can't figure it out of the gate, that's okay. By the end of this episode, you'll either figure it out or you're not going to do it anyway. So low startup cost. Instant prospects is another thing about service businesses. I think service businesses, even if it's not your long-term plan, they're such a fantastic way to lift yourself out of the poverty mindset and being in poverty, and to elevate yourself to a middle-class level almost immediately if you put enough hard work in. And a year is almost immediately, guys. If it takes you a year to really establish yourself, fine. You can build up a business like that. You can even sell it off when you're ready to go do something different. So the reason I say that there's instant prospects is, what is a service business? It's a business that provides services to people. As long as you live where people are, you have prospects. One of the businesses today I'm going to give you is pool cleaning. Do you know how you prospect for pool cleaning? Google Maps. Pull up your surrounding area. Start looking for places and making lists of clustered addresses that have pools. And I'll say more on that when I get to pools. But if you have people around you, there's potential business everywhere. When I was in the cabling industry and I sold data cabling jobs, my boss used to point out the window, and you could see downtown Dallas out one side of our window, and you could see kind of up into the North Dallas, north suburbs, like Plano, Richardson out the other, and there's just big buildings everywhere. So there's your office. What are you doing here? Right. So with a service business, literally every homeowner, if it's a business that involves cars, every car owner, right? Like go out, you bitch about traffic. There's an opportunity. Problem's the solution, right? Most require no license in most places. There'll be certain things that you need a license to do. Some people can go out and be a landscaper, and you need a license if you're going to use herbicide. But if you don't need herbicide, if you're not going to use herbicide, which I wouldn't want to do because I can't differentiate myself from True Grain Chemalon that way, then you don't. Again, there are places, California, where you will need a permit, a license, something to do anything. I advise you to get out of those places, just seriously. The referral factor is high. You will have to ground and pound in the first year or two of a business like this. You just will. But if you do it right and you deliver your service, and if it means this week, because I had to rebate a job and redo it for free, I'm eating top ramen this week, your referrals will go through the roof. People don't care you screw up, right? The people that do care that you screwed up, even though you made it right, like as long as you didn't like let somebody's dog get hit in the street because you let them out of the house or something. Like, what I mean is, like, you put it in and it didn't look right, and they're like, I don't like the way it looks, and you really did screw it up, and you fix it. They don't get upset. If they do, you don't want that person, and you don't want their referrals. That's the pain in the ass person. So if you do a good job, your good customers will become good referrers of more business. Most of the people that you do work for are going to work. They're going to have jobs. They're going to be surrounded by people that do the kind of work they do. And they're going to be good prospects for you because it's the same demographic. So it's a built-in referral-based business. You just have to – this is what people don't understand about referrals. The only reason you prospect in the cold market when you're selling is to get into somebody else's warm market. You have to build your own warm market by cold prospecting in the beginning, and then you will have unlimited access to warm markets through referrals. And that is very true in service-oriented businesses because most people that run them suck. That is another huge opportunity. When I find someone in this type of space that is willing to do a good job, I give them all the business that I can. And I don't give anybody else a shot at it until they screw up. I had a handyman a few years ago. As soon as I had him like hang out and drink a beer with us before he left one day, I'm like, I'm going to lose him. I told Dorothy he's going to be gone. And she goes, why? He does such good work. And I'm like, his whole story is he's a traveler. He's going to be here another, month or two at the most, and he's going to go somewhere else. There's some freedom in that, but it sucked for us. And you'll never build that referral-based business in that situation. But if you stay put and you do a good job, high referral, high margins, especially for small providers. And the reason is most of what you're doing is not selling materials, it's selling your own labor. And so we will talk about this a bit, but you do need to start thinking about how much you charge early on so that eventually you can hire help if you need to. But in the beginning, if you were hiring out work at $20 an hour, and that's what you're paying your contractor, your subcontractor that worked for you, and you were making another $20, that means when you do it yourself, you're effectively making a $40 an hour rate. It's just really simple to understand that. And so that's something you have to work out. But you should have fairly high margins in a business like this. In fact, if you don't have high margins, you probably won't succeed. And the number one way that people go out of business in these markets is they keep trying to undercut their competitors. Your attitude needs to be, I am the best you can get to do this, and you have to pay for the best if you want the best. I don't care when you're brand new. You still need, the reason I'm the best is because if I mess anything up, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to bitch about it. We're not going to fight about it. I'm going to fix it. Another way to look at this, back when I was in data cabling, here's how I got a job one time. And when I say got a job, I don't mean like I got a job personally. I mean, I sold a job. It was a very high-end law firm, downtown Dallas, very high-end. It was on like the 80th floor of one of the skyscrapers in Dallas. I walk into this and I realize I am in what you call a bid trap. I can tell that somebody else who's looked at the blueprints and all and is about to put a takeoff together and bid the job is leaving right as I'm showing up. And there's probably at least one more that was already there or coming in right behind me. And so I know I've got to sell beyond price. And I also know that price is not really an issue because these people have money. And I'm talking to the guy, I do the walkthrough with him. I start looking at the prints. I give him some ideas to actually improve his own ideas of how he's going to distribute his network that are going to save him money. And finally, we get to the point where I'm like, well, what do we have to win? What do we have to do to win the bid? Because I'm probably not going to be less than the people that just left here. I know who they are. They always bid cheap. What do we need to do so that you'd rather do business with us than them? And he said, you tell me why I should hire you. And we're kind of sitting in the corner of this room, this conference room. And I said, because that's a $50,000 conference table. And he goes, okay. I'm like, so my guys know not to put one scratch on that table. That's why. My guys know when they come in here and they cut out a space for a wall box and they do a data drop down that wall to put a piece of paper underneath it and to go get their little hand vacuum and make sure there's no dust left behind, so that when your client comes in here the next day, everything looks the way it's supposed to look. And I don't know that any of these other people know how to do that, but I know that we do. We got that bid. We were not the lowest. We weren't the highest. We weren't the lowest. We were kind of upper end on it with competitors. We also kept that customer for as long as I was a salesman. You have to take that same attitude into these businesses, or you're not going to build this type of referral base and this type of longevity with high margins. The other thing is they're very flexible in expanding services. Any service business means you're talking to prospects on a daily basis who are also prospects for other services, many of them related to what you're doing that you can expand into. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because since you don't have to ask anybody, if somebody wants to know, do you do this as well? You can literally add services as your customers ask you for them. And then you do it kind of I've never done that before. Here's what I think it'll cost to do it. I'm willing to do this for you because you're a good customer. People love hearing that shit. I'm willing to do this for you because you're a good customer. And that will tell you whether you want to actually add that service or not. It'll give you enough money and maybe pay for whatever you need to add to be able to provide it. And then you'll decide, do I want to actually expand this way? Because it is way easier if you have 100 good customers to add a service than add 100 more customers. It's way easier. Somebody just mentioned John Willis here. John Willis will tell you the same thing. It's much easier to sell more to the people you are already selling to than to get more people to sell to, especially as you start to build we'll talk about this today as we go through the different businesses. You'll hit a point where if I want to get bigger than this, I have to change my entire structure in the way I do business. I have to become, McBride Electric instead of Joe's Electric Service. And some people just don't ever want to do that. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you for not wanting to do that. They're also easy to start now, like right now. Like literally you could go out and buy stencils and spray paint and be out spray painting numbers on curbs this afternoon. Most of you won't do it, but you could. You could be out picking dog shit up. You think I'm kidding? You could be out doing that this afternoon. You could be out cutting somebody's grass this afternoon. If you own a lawnmower and a pickup truck, you have a basic landscaping, entry-level landscaping business in a box ready to start. There's tons of things you could be doing right now. And they all mesh with gig work for transitions. So, for instance, Brian up in Washington from Food Forest Farms, one of the things he's done is assembling like tough sheds for like Home Depot and Lowe's. There's a whole, I don't know exactly what the company's called. There's a company that basically you apply as an installer and they just give you jobs. You pick shit up and slap them together. Well, while he was doing that, he was also doing like DoorDash deliveries. And when he was out and one popped up on the app and it was one he was going to make money on, he would take it. If he was in the middle of putting a shed together, he wouldn't. And so there's a lot of things like that. You could be doing a service job and be involved in the gig economy. And when you're not getting business, when things are a downturn, you still have a revenue stream. They also can play off of each other. For instance, there's a Uber-like service called Rover. And on Rover, you can become a pet sitter. If you're pet sitting for people, you're making contacts and being paid to do it. And while you're doing that, you can look for other service work that you also provide. Or you could be launching your own pet service business of some sort. See, so there is an opportunity even to do some, well, it would be considered nefarious because you're basically taking business away from your general service provider, but it's called circumvention, but it's just the reality of the world that things work that way. You can also tie into these Uber-like services as more of a lead generation type arrangement in that if I get, let's say I'm a contractor for home improvement and I get a job from Angie's List, that customer now becomes my customer. Even though they went through Angie's, they get the insurance from Angie's and stuff like that. If I win them over, they're going to call me directly for the next job, even if I don't ask them to. And if you didn't learn anything last week in my sales show, you should be asking them to, and you should be asking them for referrals. They'll come directly to you. Let them do the circumvention. And so you're not violating your contract. So they mesh well with gig work, easy to start, flexible and expanding services, high margins, high referral factor, no license in most places, instant prospects, low startup costs. That's why you want to be doing this. Like Humble Mechanic would tell you. He'd tell you the same shit, wouldn't you, Humble? Now, Bill Hudson said, I invested about $1,000 in window washing equipment, could have went much cheaper, didn't care a lot for it after I got into it, still paid for itself 5 times over. Now it's just a little side money. And that's the thing. Like, you can keep those costs down because you might decide you don't like this thing. And that way you have the flexibility to move on to something else without the stigma of quitting a job and starting a new job. The other thing is you're going to be constantly learning about how to run a business. See, a person who can run a business can run a business. You can change the business. Business operations, there's specialized knowledge in every business, but overall business operations are pretty consistent from one business to the next. So let's start off with, of the 10 businesses, this is the one I'm going to use as a template, and then you can use that to figure things out for yourself. And Jake, you might want to tell us what Toro is if you want to ask that question. So 10 businesses and service. Okay, a niche food delivery service. I'm going to come at this from locally produced food, farm to table, but it's really farm to home. And for that to work in most places, I'm going to say that you're probably going to have to be like, all of our products are produced within 100 miles of here or are organic and imported from ethical producers of some shit. And so for this business, this is actually why I think you really need to look at this service business thing differently than many people are doing. There's so many people out there that, I'm going to be a farmer and I'm going to farm all this food. And they don't ever do a spreadsheet and realize like, oh, you're going to do pasture chickens. Do you know how many chickens you need to produce a year to make enough money for it to be a going concern? Most people don't. And then they run into this headlong issue of producing food is one skill set. Marketing and selling it and collecting the money is another. And very few people are really successful at doing both sides of that. Even some of the farmers I've seen do a really good job at it. What they actually are is they're like older farmers, and they have something still coming off their farm, but they basically make a conglomerate of other producers, and then they take over the marketing and sales of the product, and they're only producing 5 to 10% of the product, if that. So why not just jump straight to that? If I was going to do this business, like I said, this is the one I'll give you the template for. The first thing I would do would be survey my area for 2 things. How many people are affluent enough to buy product like this consistently and want to? Is this the right business for my place? Because just because I give you one of these businesses don't mean that it's right for where you live. So Dallas-Fort Worth is prime for this. We have concerned Karens everywhere. They don't just want local food. They want to tell, they want to tell their friends about it. They want to talk about it. They want to be seen as saving the planet and helping the small producer. They want the image as much as the product. And there's tons of money here. There's tons of money here. There's places around here that you've never heard of if you're not from here, that there's more money than you can. It staggers your mind. Hell, North Fort Worth, not downtown, but North Fort Worth, just to my east. Holy crap, the money in some of those neighborhoods. Over where my nephew lives, it's insane. The money down the street from me in a little place called Lakeside. There ain't a house in those neighborhoods down there that's not, 10 years ago, $500,000. Now they're $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 homes, right? There is so much money in Dallas-Fort Worth. There's a lot of poverty too, but there's a lot of wealth. This is a business that you need to be selling to upper middle class and above. Okay. But I would find that those two, if they match, then I'm going to go forward with it. I'm going to start contacting all the local producers. I want to know what they have, how much they can produce, what their price is. I'm not even going to haggle on the price. I don't want to haggle with them. If they tell me this thing costs X, then it costs X. If my margin is Y, it's X times Y equals price. And I'm going to find as much supply as I can. I'm also going to connect with any types of resellers. I'm going to find the best stores that I can go to where I can get kind of the Whole Food Central Market stores. And there's going to be 10 things in that whole store that make sense to go in my catalog. 10 at the most. I want a product catalog 100 to 200 items, and they're not always all available. If you're going to have a person like me as a supplier, of duck eggs. I'm going to tell you, you can have all the duck eggs you want as far as what my flock will produce from about February till about June. You can have some eggs from like September to December, maybe a few in January, and then that's going to be the cycle. Your producers will know this. And so then I'm going to put those eggs in my catalog, and I'm also going to tell my customers this is egg season. And I'm going to market that the same way that everybody around here markets hatch chili season. That's right now, right? Hatch chili. Every Mexican place, we have hatch chilies. Like, they have hatch chilies all the time. But because this is when they come in, they make a big deal out of it. I'm going to make a big deal of it. This is duck egg season. This is chicken egg season, right? This is basil season, whatever. Like, I'm going to make a big deal out of that. I want to go online with this business. So to keep the cost down, I'm going to use WordPress, and I'm going to create a system that allows my customers to come in and put their orders in once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever frequency they take. And they're going to be 1 week out on delivery. So if you order this week, you get it next week. That gives me time to balance inventory loads. And I'm going to have a certain amount that I know producer X can provide. And I'm going to put that in my calendar, in my catalog this week. And if it goes to zero, then it will take no more orders. So I'm going to train my customers to help me manage my inventory flow. I'm going to have every customer on an email list. In fact, if you will not be on my email list, you can't be my customer. I'm going to train my customers that out of the gate. Look, things change. There's going to be updates and stuff like that. You're going to need to know. We don't spam. If you think I'm a spammer, in fact, I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to go the Costco model. I'm going to have certain practices and fees that make the customer I don't want go away. I want to vigorously turn down customers in this business because the Department of Making You Sad so much likes to hook into food businesses. I'm going to run this one. I would not run every business this way. I'm going to run this one on a PMA, Private Members Association. You're going to have to be a member to do business. I'm going to probably charge $100 a year to be a member. Same price Costco charges. Why not? Why not? I'm going to do that because if I can build this business to 500 customers at $100 a year, I have a base salary for myself. That's one reason I'm going to do it. The other reason I'm going to do it is going to keep people out who are problems. Most of the people that are out there that work for Department of Making You Sad, food inspectors, all that shit, they do not go out seeking this shit. They don't go out looking to cause problems. They justify their existence on a daily basis by doing what they're told to do. And as far as causing trouble, it's almost exclusively complaint-driven business. So if you're not a member, you can't even see what we really do other than we provide the best local food available straight to your door. Something like that. That's all you know. You don't know what, where, when, how. You don't know shit until you become a member, and you only know as much as you need that you'll be willing to become a member. And that might be from a personal conversation. As you grow larger, then people are finding you through marketing, and then they request evaluation to become a member. This business, unlike a lot of other ones where you just throw out a wide net, I'm going to actually talk to anybody or have somebody that works for me talk to anybody before we let them in. Because I want to be able to do things that may be gray market, just like that flag back there, right? I want to do the gray market stuff, not the black, but the gray. And so here's an example of this. And this is what made me think of this business as the great template, because it has the most complications out of all of them. I knew this couple up in Arkansas. You used to go to the farmer's market. And most of the farmer's market were people selling cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, and stuff like that. Well, I grew all that. I didn't need it. This dude had chickens, pastured chicken. Great. Go talk to him, buy a couple chickens off him every couple weeks. I said, what else do you guys sell? This guy, they were students of Joel Salatin through his books, not like as a intern or anything. And so they were doing all these tractor chickens and all, and they said, well, we can sell these at the farmer's market. But the thing that makes us the most money and that we're most proud of is our rabbit. Okay. Why don't you have any rabbits here? One way or another, they weren't allowed to sell rabbits, processed rabbits, at the farmer's market. If you wanted rabbits, you had to go to his farm to get the rabbits. I want to be able to deliver rabbits. It's a private members club. Go away. This is for our members. You don't get to talk about it. I don't care what you think. And it would be things like that you could integrate into this. Because since it's a complaint-driven system, you're not going to have a complaint problem because everybody that is a member. Now, you can always have a member get mad about something. There's risk to anything you do. There's risk to anything that you do. But that's how I would approach this. And let those customers order their stuff. And then, every other week, every week, depending on how it works out, somebody shows up and delivers their stuff. There's a lot of people doing this already. That's a good thing. See this, you know what? Somebody, when I really tune people out, when I get this, Jack, I have this great idea. Nobody's doing it. And I'm thinking, yeah, that might be an opportunity, but there's probably also a reason. So this is a really solid way to get into the largest business on the planet. The largest business on the planet is food. It's not energy. I know you think it is, but it's food. There's the single largest industry in the world is food because there is plenty of people who have no access to energy, and there's no people with no access to food for very long. The food industry is the single largest industry in the world. But what I always teach you about business, don't ever go into business selling people things they need. Sell them things that they want. You go in the food industry as a needs-based business, you're competing with Kellogg's, Wonder Bread, and Old El Paso, and Frito-Lay, and Cheetos. You don't want to compete in that market. You want concerned Karen who's willing to spend stupid amounts of money for high-quality food, more so she can tell other people she does it than because she really wants the quality of the food. That's who you're going to get in this business. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. You're going to get people mainly who are high income, high net worth individuals. And around here, I can tell you the exact archetype. It's going to be driven by females. Most of them are not going to have jobs. They're going to be in very well-to-do families where their job is this kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for everybody, but that's who you'd be selling to in that business here if you want to build it into something that's a good income. The other thing you would need to do, you need to sit down, a spreadsheet. What does your average revenue per order have to be, and how many of those orders do you need a week to make your target income in real money? And then you need to see your CPA and whatever. But you can start this very part-time today if you wanted to. Like I laid out a template. There's a lot more to it. You'd get things into this business that I'm not even thinking of because it's not important to me because it's not my business. I'll tell you straight up, all these businesses I'm going to give you today, several of them I've thought about starting when I was younger. None of them are a business that I would want to do today because I don't want to do this type of work. I love what I do. I love teaching. I don't want to be out delivering things or hammering fence posts up or something like that. But if you do, then there's opportunity here. And when I was young, I did anything for money. There were times, I did anything legal and morally ethical for money. I had plenty of times where I had a job and contract work at the same time. And if you're young, man, this is when you can do it. Go do it. Make it happen. Build your future now. Okay, next one. And I'm not going to go deep into these now. Now we're going to blow through them, okay? Fence and deck, repair, maintenance, and staining, etc. I've seen a lot of people like kind of when they come at these type of businesses, they say, well, go into deck and fence staining. Okay, yeah, I think that's a good way to start. But if you go into repair, maintenance, and staining, now you have every single person with a wooden fence or a deck as a potential customer. The person that just paid to have somebody put a brand new fence in and they were going to stain it themselves, and it's 3 weeks in and that pretty white fence is starting to gray just a little bit and they realize they're not going to get to it. When you knock on their door, I can have this thing stained for you by Friday. Here's how much it'll cost. Because that is a straight up equation. You should be able to look. First of all, you can look on Google Earth. You know the average size of a person's yard. And then you should be able to adjust in your head. You should be like, that's 100, 120, another 100. Okay, so that's 320 feet. I'm going to stain both sides. That's X times Y. And this is how much it's going to be. You should be able to walk in. As long as I use one of our standard stains, this is going to be a $580 job. and I can get started on it tomorrow morning. That's an instant sale and close. But when you look and like the fence is stained, it really doesn't need to be stained, but it's got some, like, I can fix this for you for $65. I'll go get some pickets. I got some on my truck right now. I could just take care of it. I can match that stain. That is, you know, so-and-so, because you'll get like this, right? You'll quickly be like, I know what stain that is. Almost everybody in these neighborhoods, they're all buying their fencing and their stain from Home Depot or Lowe's. You know, maybe Ace Hardware or what's that paint company? Something with a K. Like, you'll know. I know how to match that stain. No problem. And I can have this done, like, right now. Including, I just finished your neighbors, and I noticed this. See, now you're making the truck roll count. You know, I've got some extras. I've got some stuff. I've got some stain. I'll take care of that. Same with decks. You know, you're doing somebody's fence, and you look at their deck, and you see they're starting to have nail pops, and they're starting to have wood warp and shit. Like, man, you need to take care of that. Here's a price. It's good for 30 days. If I don't do it in 30 days, I'll have to redo it because my prices will change, but it'll be about this price. You're doing what I just talked to Joel Riles over at K9 Academy, and I gave him a term that comes out of sales, and we altered it. ABTs, your ABTs with your dogs, always be training, right? Because what I try to do with my dogs is I try to put a little training in everything we do. When I bring Belle in the house, I make her sit, wait, I take her leash off, I throw it on the ground. Even when I drop that leash and it makes that noise and she knows she's free, I gave her a command to wait. I expect her to wait. Why? Because always be training. Well, it comes from the ABCs and spelling sales wrong, C-E-L-L, selling, always be selling. When you're in a business, you need to always be selling because that's how you live. And just simply noticing things and saying, I can take care of that and I can take care of that. And that starts the crossovers. But fences and decks, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And you might be like, somebody says, well, you know, you do fences. I've got this galvanized, you know, no, I don't do that yet. Right? Don't try to grow faster than you can. If you have nothing else to do and you think you can figure it out, take it. But no, that's not what I do. Wood fences. All right. And there's a lot of overlap in this too. Hauling and delivery services from junk, bulk materials, appliances. There's a dude, he makes a really great supplemental income. He's retired and on Social Security. He's like almost 70. But he's like the fit 70, like the really fit 70. Like he'd kick a lot of guys' asses that are 49 fit. And I don't know why he's fit like that because it ain't from the work he's doing. It might just be he's really conscious about his health and all. But he has a trailer, a dump trailer. He can haul up to 6 yards of material in that trailer. I've used him several times. When my truck went down and I needed like 3 yards of soil, I paid him to go get it for me. Then I bought some equipment that I couldn't get delivered from the company I bought it from, and I had him pick it up for me. I've used other people to haul junk, but that was before I knew this guy existed. So this guy would haul junk. He doesn't care what he's hauling. He has an asset, a truck and a trailer, and he can drive. He can back the trailer into tight spots. That's pretty much his whole skill set. His trailer is now you wouldn't do this for $1,000, but you could build into it starting with what you have. His trailer is a hydraulic dump trailer. So I got like 3 yards of soil from him. He said, well, where do you want it? And I said, well, I want it way up in there. I'm going to spread it out in that flower bed for my wife. And he said, no problem. I'll put it right there. Really? So because I couldn't tell it was a dump trailer. He backs it right up into there, wheels right up over the rocks I had set up for the border. Boom. And he left me a giant pile, but it was a hell of a lot better than having to move it. All I had to do was spread it out. And so this guy is making money while he's retired, and he's basically like, I'll do 1 or 2 of these a day, 4 days a week. And if somebody calls me and I don't feel like doing it, I don't do it. And I said, well, how much are you making? And he looks around. This guy's like my kind of guy, right? Like the government's going to find out because he's making most of this money cash. He's like, yeah, $500-600 a week. He's not hustling, but he's hustling. He's just hustling so slow he doesn't know he's hustling. He's working harder than a lot of 25-year-olds that think they're working hard. He doesn't feel like he's working at all because he enjoys what he's doing. There's a lot of ways you could leverage a business like that. But if you already own a pickup truck, you already have an asset a lot of people don't have. And there's a lot of money to be made in bringing things to people and taking them away. Anybody can do it, and this is the beauty of it. If I hire you to do something like put a roof over my porch outside, I really care about your skill and ability. If I hire you to haul away a bunch of fucking junk, I don't care about your skill and ability as long as you don't wreck my fence. So it's a pretty easy initial first sale, I guess is what I'm getting at. How about landscaping services? Now, if you go into the landscaping service that people don't need, but they think they need, you're going to have a very high level of competition in a relatively low margin business. What I'm talking about is the person wants their yard almost a weird shade of green. They want all the same grass. They want it all the same length. They want it edged and weed-eated and mowed every week. They don't want any weeds at all. They don't mind chemicals and fertilizers and herbicides being sprayed on their lawn. You can make a living doing that, but it's probably not the niche way to make the business that you're trying to start up off the ground. You're looking for people that are just like, I don't care. I just don't want to cut my own grass. I want somebody to cut it for me. A lot of those bigger landscape companies, they don't want those customers. They make their money on chemicals. They make their money by tying people into contracts long term. Most of them are franchisees. They don't have any flexibility in what they do at all. You want the person that wants everything done naturally. And anything, again, from I just want my shit mowed and then it clean the sidewalks off and once every month and a half, take the weed eater, go vertical and keep the grass out of there. Or you want somebody that wants it done really, really nice, but they don't want any chemicals whatsoever. They want somebody to come in there and treat that like it's their backyard and they have 3 kids and they don't want their kids ingesting poison. Those are your customers for that. And that can start out with a decent lawnmower and a vehicle that you can do that. But if you're in that business, then see, I think what you have to do is you have to expand. Most of your lawn care companies are not going to take care of tree removal, for instance. They're not going to take care of, tree trimming and things like that as well. I mean, they might lob a limb off of a tree planting services, irrigation installation. See, I would be in everything if I were in that business. I'm in your yard and I'm here to make sure the things that are supposed to grow, don't die, don't kill you, and look good. That's the whole premise of the business. Remember, I've always said, with any business, you should be able to present your business off a business card. This is my value proposition right here. You might need some explanation. If you're really good, you'll design your logo and your strap line, and you could present your entire business off your logo and your strap line in 90 seconds. And remember for my show, by the way, if you want to know how to sell this, go listen to my show last week on sales. My show last week on sales, plus this, is your pathway out of poverty if you're in poverty right now, if you want it. And I'm not afraid to say that because I know it's true because I've built my own life this way. So landscape service. How about mobile car detailing services? You start out super cheap with that, and it could become where you have several tens of thousands of dollars invested for a really high-end car detailing service. But when I used to drive to an office all the time, there was a guy that did detailing there. And I'm not a guy that gets that fussy about my cars, but every couple of months I'd be like, yeah, man, I'll have mine done today. And he just went out in our parking lot and you give him your keys, he'd detail your car, and he'd come back when you were done, hand you your keys, and he'd give you an invoice, and you would pay the invoice after you had a chance to look at your car and you were happy with it. He didn't worry about somebody not paying because nobody wants to not pay a bill for something they agreed to in their office, surrounded by their office mates. I asked him, I said, do you go to an apartment complex? No, I do nothing but businesses. He's like, I don't even talk to people unless they're in their place of work. And he explained that to me, that he never had a collections problem because nobody wanted to be seen by their coworkers not paying the bill. And it got to the point where most of the people, even though he would say, here's your invoice, pay me, he'd say, pay me by tomorrow. So electronic invoice, like a PayPal invoice. And almost everybody would just pay him instantly because he did a good job. You didn't worry about it. The people that waited till later to pay them and went and checked their car were like the first time they ever used them. You talk about referrals? People, I have an employee come in and go, Jack, the dude that was here that does details, he said he does your car. I'd be like, not all the time, but yeah. You see, good job. Oh, he does a great job. And that guy run him down. I remember this guy Grimes ran him down in the hallway. Hold on. Could you have time for one more today? Because this car looked like shit. Like, he was pretty sophisticated. He had a trailer. He had like his own water tanks so he could carry extra water to keep the pressure washer running and things like that. He had to use like all eco-friendly stuff so it could be rinsed anywhere and not be a problem. But he made that part of his sales, eco-friendly car detailing service. And he did it right, man. And there's nothing like you pull your car into your office in the morning and you're like, man, I need to get this washed. And it's going to be shit if you just do it through the drive-through wash or whatever. And you're like, I just ain't got time. And then like, oh yeah, Bill's coming today. You throw them, whatever it is, and you walk out at the end of the day and your car is freaking gorgeous. Does everybody care about that? No. Do a lot of people? Yes. How many do you need for a successful business doing that? It's a wonderful business, and there's so much else. But I'm going to save a lot of these add-ons for my number 11 bonus, okay? How about pressure washing and curb painting? I'm actually going to combine those. I don't know that either one of them is enough by itself. But you know what you need to get started pressure washing? You need a pressure washer and a vehicle capable of bringing the pressure washer around. And I'm going to tell you a guy that I remember from back when I was in construction work, outside plant cabling really, but it was a construction job. And he worked for me and he ended up, like he was doing this on weekends. He came in and resigned. It was good. He gave me 2 weeks. I ended up only needing a week. He was happy to have that. He went off to do this. And I asked him when he got started. He said, I went and got a really good, actually, I think he inherited it. I think it was like his uncle died or something. And the aunt had everybody over and said, if there's anything here in the garage, like she just wanted it all to go and just take it. He had this really badass pressure washer and a busted ass pickup truck. And he would go to places and he would look for places that needed like their driveway or whatever pressure washed. And he'd tell the guy, look, I don't even think you realize how much better this will look if I do this. And he would take his pressure washer and he would wash like a 50-cent piece dot on their driveway and say, that'll be, if you want me to do the whole driveway, pretty big driveway, $150. I'll be out of here in an hour. It'll all look like that. And he said like 1 in 3 that would let him make the little dot would let him clean the driveway. And that more than once, the guy would say, I don't know. And he'd go next door. He'd do the neighbors. And while he was doing the neighbor's driveway, the guy he talked to first would come out and look at it. And he'd be getting ready to start packing his shit up. He'd go, wait a minute. Now that I see what it really, because now his neighbors is gorgeous. Like, and you're just going, at that point, you're house to house to house. I just did his. How do I know you do it? Because I just did his. Even you do as many as you can a day. If it was working well for you in that neighborhood, go back tomorrow. So that is a solid business. Now, the reason I say add curb painting to this, and what I mean by curb painting, and there's a lot of people that do this, but nobody sticks with it. And I think it's because you can make a lot of money, but the kind of people that do it don't really take it seriously. They make a bunch. And I want to actually pause right here. This is really important to understand. All of these are handyman-like businesses. And I've known so many people that have done this over the years that I have to caution you with it now of the number one reason that people fail at these businesses. It is not because they cannot get enough work. It is not because they cannot develop enough skill in what they do to charge fairly for it. It is not even because they don't charge enough, though many of them do not. It is because they end up in a very, I would almost call it like a gambler-like pattern. They go along to get along, and they get just enough work to pay all their bills, keep their wife off their back, or if they're still living at home, their mom off their back or whatever, and get by and party and go out and enjoy their weekends. They don't put the extra hours in early on to build the business big and fast. And every once in a while, they come across a couple fat cat customers in a row, and they make a bunch of money. And then they have enough money to go 3 or 4 months without doing any more work. And it's pretty much what they do. They take what comes naturally. They even turn down some jobs. They get lazy. They go out and spend their money faster than they should have. They often get themselves into problems and trouble since they don't work for anybody. I'll just crack a beer at 2:30. By 7, they're shit-faced. And by 8, they're in jail for a DUI. Like, I've seen it over and over. The dude that does our pool, it's also on the list. I think he's in jail right now, and he's got somebody stepped in for him while he's in jail. This is what there's so much freedom in a business like this. You have to treat it more seriously than a job, not less seriously, or that's your future. That it happens. I've seen guys that are like contract drywallers, contract framers, not just solopreneur type straight up business, but contractors that are contracting their work out. They get a really big job. They go in and do, 20 houses of drywall in a week. They make a ton of money, and then they just kind of don't build the business anymore, and it never becomes a business. It is like a part-time job with big paydays, and they treat it that way, and that's what it turns into. Don't let that happen to you. If you're going to build something like this, build it to the point where you can be proud of it, or it's not worth doing. Go get a job then. Go get gig economy then if you're not going to take it seriously. But the curb painting is good money fast. And the better you get at it, the better it looks, the more willing people will be to pay for it. And the best thing you could do if you're going to curb paint is pressure wash the curb before you paint the new number on. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about the fact if you go through a lot of nice neighborhoods, you'll see everybody's house numbers like on both sides of their driveway. That's what I'm talking about doing. So it's stencils and paint and a little bit of skill and developing things like there's people around here, they do cowboy logos, right? They'll do pretty much any football logo, but Cowboys and Steelers are everywhere. Like outside of Texas and Pennsylvania, still Cowboy. I would say your 4 biggest team franchises in the country, and I don't even know why, but they are Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers, Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants. I know somebody's a fan of some other team, you're going to get pissed. I'm just saying when I travel and I'm away from home base, those are the 4 teams that I see everywhere. My son's a huge Eagles fan, Nick. Mick's saying Eagles, right? Yeah. Son is a huge Eagles fan. I like the Eagles. I love the Steelers, right? I've actually had people say, well, what are you going to do if the Steelers and the Eagles both get in the Super Bowl? Have a great Super Bowl, man. Not that I care that much about football anymore, but yeah, that'd be kind of cool. It wouldn't be a problem. But if you take something like pressure washing and curb painting and put it together, now you have what I call gas money clothes for your sales. I want to pressure wash the driveway for $250, but I'll totally just do the curbs for $50. Now I just paid for my gas money today. Now all my other business that I get today is more profitable. And that's, again, it's also one of those businesses. You do the driveway, the neighbor sees it, goes, whoa, holy crap. Because people don't know how nasty, and stained their sidewalks are. They really don't. But then they also see the nice letters. And you know what you tell people? Well, why do I really care about that? Because if you call EMS, it'd be great if they could get to your house as soon as possible. That's the answer. That's why. Or when your friends and neighbors come that have never been to your house before, it'll be easier for them to see where you're at. And you use, high relief contrasting paint, something that reflects, either the background reflects the solid or the solid reflects itself. And that way it can be seen easily at night. Most people cannot. You go through a neighborhood and you try to find house numbers. It's a bitch. It's a bitch. So there's money in that. The next one is pool cleaning. Pool cleaning is a great business. It's also a business that's good enough, lucrative enough, and large enough that there is, like the landscaping, there is competition. But I'll tell you about your competition. Number one, 9 out of 10 pool companies will not touch above ground pools. They won't touch them. And there's a reason. When you're vacuuming an above ground pool, you have to be really careful, because if you bind up the liner, you can put a hole in the liner. Liners are easy to patch. It's another business, okay? Number two, because they're above ground, they're less temperature stable. They tend to have wider swings in their chemical needs. and they tend to go green on you faster, and people get mad when you clean their pool and it turns green. You need to have this conversation with your customers in advance about things that they need to do, like adding water to their pool and stuff like that. And if I do it every week through the summer and I see it coming, I can keep it from happening. But if you have me do it every 2 weeks and it gets ahead of me, I might have to charge you significantly to fix it. And the problem is the solution. But there's another thing that people don't know about all the big pool companies. They all want you to sign a contract. People don't like signing contracts for something like pool service. They really don't. They don't mind paying for it every 2 weeks or every week, right? They don't mind paying for it every week during the summer and every 3 weeks in the fall and the winter, right? Maybe once a month in the dead of winter, but they don't want a contract saying they have to do it. So no contracts when we do above ground pools. How do you get customers? Couple ways. One, you go to Google Maps. You pull up the satellite view of the area you live in, and you start finding above ground pools because you can see them all. You can know every address to go to in a neighborhood before you drive to it. I see you have an above ground pool. Really? How'd you see that? I'd tell them, Google Maps. I have a new business. We clean exclusively above ground pools. We understand why a lot of companies don't want to. Here's what we do to prevent that from being a problem. Here's how much it costs. We can start next week. No contract. That's how long it takes to present your business. That's how long it takes to present your value. And you're talking to a qualified prospect. A qualified prospect is anybody with a pool. And then you're going to run into this. I totally get it. I have a guy right now. He's great. Okay, that's wonderful. I'm not here to take business from anybody. But if anything ever goes wrong, here's how you get in touch with me. Do you know why? 9 out of 10 times within 1 year, the person that they have is going to do what everyone I've ever found to do this service for me has done, flake the F out. I had a great guy. He retired. He made enough money. He's like, I don't need this shit anymore. He quit. He tried to help my son get started in this business, and my son just didn't have it in him to really run a business of his own. So that didn't work out. I got another lady. She ended up in a motorcycle accident, lost her leg, all kinds of personal problems that she had to tell us about every time she was here. She did a good job, so I just ignored her and let her talk. But eventually her problems caught up with her. I got another guy. He got a divorce and went to jail. I got a guy now. I think he's in jail. You know what it means when you have a service industry where that is your primary competition? You get to own the whole effing thing if you do it right. You build a reputation of always making it right, always being on time, always taking care of things, and you will have referrals that flow like you wouldn't believe. So now you've got one source of prospects, Google, Earth, and neighborhoods around you. The other thing you do is you find every store that sells above ground pools within 20 miles of you, and you go there, and you become a donut boy. Yep, donut boy. Donut boy works. Tell you what donut boy's from. You get into the data cabling, electrical, all of that industry. This is what I used to do. I used to manage manufacturers' reps. And my manufacturers' reps were donut boys. Because this is what you do if you're a donut boy. You go to Gray Bar, you go to Annixter, right? You go to all these places that are wholesalers of the products that you rep. You go in there at least once every week or two, and you bring a couple dozen donuts, the cheapest but good donuts you can get, and you go in and you talk to everybody. You know who never gets told, get the F out of here? The guy that brings the donuts. That was a TV commercial. You're the guy that brought the donuts. Nobody gets mad. If you're going to be late for a meeting, pick up a dozen donuts, walk into the meeting, put the box of donuts on the thing, and open it up. Nobody gets mad. You brought the donuts. You become donut boy. You bring all of those location donuts once a week for a month. You will have referrals. Because, how do I know this? I have some deep market research information for you. I've owned 4 above ground pools. I bought and installed 3 of them. I bought and had them install 3 of them. I don't like taking care of pools. I'm your perfect customer for this business. I'm going to pay the bill. I do not care. If you raise your price $10 because chlorine goes up, I don't care. All I want is my pool taken care of, and I don't want to look at it, touch it, or hear my wife complain about it. That's all I'm looking for out of this. Yeah? Okay. So every time I bought one of these pools, I have said, and do you have somebody that can install the pool for us? Yes, we do. His name is Bill, and here's his shit. He charges $500 plus $100 prep work and whatever the sand costs for the bed. Great. Do you have somebody that takes care of these? Not really. But we have a free class you can take that will tell you how to take care of your own pool. I don't want to take care of my pool. So if you make these people your friends, you are solving their problem. Because there are people who will go in and go, why don't you have anybody to take care of a pool? And I don't want to take care of my pool. So they're going to go home without buying a pool. They're going to make a couple phone calls to the local pool service people. And they're going to say, oh, no, we don't do above ground pools. It's not going to make any sense to them, but it can be the decision between them buying and not buying a pool. You say, well, rich people were going to buy in-ground pools. Not necessarily. There's a lot of reasons people. I have money. You know why I don't have an in-ground pool? I don't want to spend $30,000 for the hole before they build the pool. People buy them because they want the pool now. People buy them because they're more comfortable with them. People buy them because they're quicker to put in. A lot of reasons people buy them. They're very popular. They're all over the place. I see them in upper middle class neighborhoods all the time. You don't want to try to sell to the person. I don't mean to be offensive, but you don't want to sell to the trailer park with four of them in there, right? If they have money and they want to do it, sure, but that's probably not where you want to go. They got some guy named Phil. He'll do it, for some math. You want to sell to Karens and Kyles in the neighborhoods doing this. And the dude that retired, I talked to him. I said, how much money do you make? He said, I make about $75,000 every summer. 4 months out of the year, he was making $75,000 out of his business. He was a hustler too. He was an older, like I said, he retired. He went in more of a semi-retirement. I think he sold his business off, all his customer base. But he was like, he would do the thing like where you go into a liquor store and somebody's pouring wine. He did shit like that. Or like giving samples out at Costco and stuff like he did stuff like that. And he said, I'm going to keep doing that stuff because I only do it in the evenings and weekends and it's something to do. So, I mean, he did that for, I think he said the last 20 years of his career is clean pools and exclusively above ground. So, like I said, I got a lot on that one. Gutter cleaning, servicing, repairs, screening, anything that keeps the crap out of your gutters. A lot of companies do that too, but they don't really hit the neighborhoods hard with sales. It's another business too that once you do it for somebody, then you have referrals on both sides of them. Most people do know their neighbors on a speaking basis. Not well necessarily, but like, hey, Tom, hey, Frank, like that. So you have instant credibility. Once you have a customer, you can branch out in that neighborhood. Go 2 houses on each side, 2 more on each side, 2 more. So you pick up 1 more, keep leapfrogging it. The longer you're there, nice little bit of signage, very inexpensive, magnet on the side of your truck, right? You're officially in business. Get some nice shirts. Like I'll throw, and this would apply to most of these businesses, just a golf shirt with a logo on it. I mean, it's like $30 and have enough of them that you can keep them clean so you don't stink and look like you're a slob. Look like you're official. Keep your truck clean. Nice little branding logo, little leave behind or business cards. It's all you need. All is easy to simple 4-page website to get started, unless like the food business with the catalog would require a little bit more stuff. But none of this is hard. None of this is hard. People that say they can't do this, right? People that say they can't do this don't want to. People that make excuses for why it won't work, there's freaking broke-ass rednecks that have made themselves a success doing all these things all over the country. If they can do it, you can do it. You just don't want to. And it's okay. I don't want to. I can talk about it. I can tell you how to do it. I can tell you that it'll work. And I can teach you business principles with it for other types of businesses. All of this is translatable. But just the reason I'm pointing this out is don't get caught in this pathetic hamster wheel of excuse making and toolbox fallacy bullshit, because all it will do is allow you to spend time intellectually masturbating about why you can't do something. And your brain's a computer. And every minute you spend telling it, I can't do this, it's reinforcing the programming, I can't do this. And it's taking it, I can't start a business. That's what you're programming yourself to do. And if you don't want to start a business, then do something else. It's very dangerous to engage in intellectual masturbation about doing something you don't really have the commitment to do, because you'll just do this massive amount of negative programming there. I'm not the guy that's into one thing and says, if you don't think you can make real estate money in real estate, you're stupid. And it's the best way in the world to make money is real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. And you're a loser if you don't do it. I'm not big in real estate myself. Why? There's a lot of good and there's a lot of hassle. And I don't like hassle in my life. So anyway, moving on. If you have a question, this is how to do it right here. I only have 2 of them starred right now, but make sure the first few words are in all caps. The word question in all caps is even better, as I only have one good eye, and I am alone today. But gutter cleaning, servicing, repair, screening, all of that is a valid business. There's all new types of products that are being made to keep crap out of gutters. I would learn about them all, because most of your competitors are going to have a really nice trifold brochure provided to them by the mothership that they're a franchisee for. And this is the best solution because it's the one I sell. I would be like, listen, here's how this works. I can clean your gutters twice a year for you and fix the little problems that you have. Or I can install this and it probably will last you about 5 years. Or I can install this and it'll probably last you 10 years. And not my work, but the product itself has a 10-year warranty or something like that. Like, I would know all the things. I'm seeing these things now. They just look like foam triangle things you stick in the gutters. I'm skeptical that those work worth a shit. But I would find out if they did. You know how I would? I'd just take one piece of my gutter and stick it in there and see how it works. So there's definitely a business in that. Dog poop removal service. Dog shit removal. There's a kid in my audience ended up on Mike Rowe's show. Dog shit removal business. I said it probably 12 years ago on the air during a show similar to this one. Within a couple of months, I hear from this guy, my son, this kid, like he was like 12 when he started it. By the time he was 16, he was knocking down 6 figures removing dog shit. But see, I would up the ante with this. Do you know they make doggy septic tanks? They're little. I mean, they're in like a 1-hour install with a shovel if you live in a place that's easy to dig a hole. I'm sure you could install a couple of them to, handle multiple dogs or to mitigate the individual impact of them. You can buy them on Amazon. They start at about $50. They're basically a set box, right? Like when we used to do cable TV stuff, you have like a pull box. So you have like a loop coming through, and you have a service loop area with a splice. And that way, if something goes wrong, you have some cable you can pull from and you dig a hole, you drop this box in it, and you backfill it and it sits flat. They're basically a round version of that. And you throw dog shit in it and you put a little bit of this added breakdown chemical in it, and it makes all your dog shit break down and go away. Do you know my solution to my dog shit in the yard? I don't do anything. Sun, rain, chickens, I ain't worried. Do you know there's people that don't feel that way? They want their dog poop picked up every week, every other 4 days, whatever it is. There is money in dog shit removal. Lots of money. And all you have to do is find the areas where people have more money than brains and foofy little dogs that they're willing to treat like their children, because they're not childless cat ladies, they're childless dog ladies. Right? And there's all types of scenarios where people are willing to pay for this. And your high impact zone, expensive houses, small yards. Why do I feel the way I do about dogs? One, because I understand how nature works, but it's really easy when you have 3 acres. I don't have like this tiny ass, 5 bedrooms equals a freaking backyard. There's people that have 2 big dogs. It is 50 feet from their porch to their back fence. It's 80 feet across. That's a lot of shit in a small area. They don't like it. Some of the really big houses over in like South, like I said, there's neighborhoods and subdivisions and little towns and cities around here that are just stacked with money. Colleyville, South Lake, parts of Saginaw. And I did some work over in those areas when I was in the outside plant world. And you could often walk through houses that weren't quite done yet just to see what they were doing. And what they would do in a lot of these houses, the house would have a little small backyard, but it would also have like a courtyard in the center of the house. So you got this whole huge 2-story house built around this square, And the square would have like sliding glass doors or big windows all around it. So you're in the house looking into this little cubby. And these would be 15 foot by 15 foot, maybe. Pretty little outdoor space surrounded by the house. You get it? You know what that was mostly for? So you could put Fluffy out there in the middle of the night and not worry about her. So that when it was nice outside, you could just leave the door open for Fluffy. Fluffy could go in and out. You could put a nice little professional dog door in if Fluffy goes in and out. And the way I ended up figuring out that these were dedicated dog spaces is I started seeing these doggy septic tanks. This is 25 years ago. Every one of these had a doggy septic tank. And I looked at the brand name on it and looked it up, and I'm like, oh, if people will buy a house like that for Fluffy, they will pay you to take away Fluffy's poop. Now, the combination that I have for this is totally unique. Bird feeder service. I know this is going to sound ridiculous to some of you, but I've known more than one company doing it. Every week when you go there to take care of Fluffy's poop, you professionally clean, service, and fill their bird feeders. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Will people pay for that? The person that will pay you to take away Fluffy's poo or stick it in the doggy septic tank, you charge them to install because they don't want to do it, right? Because that's even better. You don't have to take it away. In fact, I would market it that way. We come in, we install your own custom dog service septic system. And if you don't want our service that goes with it, it costs, make it expensive. $250 for professional install and all the chemicals you need for your first 90 days. If you sign a 1-year contract for waste removal, we do the work for free and we charge you only for the materials. That way you have no out-of-pocket costs. The person that will do that, if they like birds, will probably pay you. If you put 3 or 4 bird feeders in, nice, professionally installed, like look with what you have to work with, figure it out, yeah. And then black oil sunflower is the #1 bird distractant there is. The cheapest bird seed mix that you'll ever make yourself that has the most diversity, black oil sunflower, white proso millet. And I would go at like 20% millet to 80% black oil sunflower. Tons of birds come in, they're happy. Fluffy's poo is taken care of. You don't even have to take poo with you. In fact, I might require, if you want our waste removal service, you have to get one of our septic systems. Because I don't want to carry Fluffy's poo away in the bag. Because as much as it's going to be like, I got to get rid of Fluffy's poo, you're going to have the guy hire you that owns like 4 Rottweilers. You don't want it to, you're going to need our jumbo waste elimination system. See what I'm saying? But there is money in that business as well. And then what I would call kitchen remodel shortcuts. I don't know a person that when they buy a house that hasn't been fully redone, doesn't look at the kitchen and go, yeah, that needs some work. And there's a lot of things that you can do in a kitchen that cost a lot less money than a full remodel. The average kitchen remodel will be between $30,000 and $45,000. That's a great job to have, except the people doing that work don't make the money you think that they do. By the time they recoup all of their costs, their margin on that job is not very good. But the one-man handyman type person that can walk into there, I would encourage you, if you like this type of thing, like the handyman work and all, even as an add-on, because all these businesses can be assembled and snapped together modularly, right, as a larger business. But learn about something called Stone Coat Countertops. They have an incredible YouTube channel. They show you how to do everything. It's basically an epoxy resin. And you can go in and completely transform something like a kitchen's counter surfaces without taking anything out. And it looks beautiful. It can look like marble. It can look like modern art. It is amazing what you can do with that. Cabinets are freaking expensive. A lot of cabinets, you pull the doors off them, you clean the hardware, you paint the frames, you paint the doors, you stick them back on. It's a complete refresh of the kitchen. But Karen could do that herself. Yeah, but Karen's not gonna. Karen's not gonna do it herself. And Karen's wife, Kyle, he's too busy working and earning money to pay for Karen's shoe shopping habit to do that work. He doesn't want to do that work because he doesn't get anything out of it. You have to move to the right demographic for what you're selling, and that's upper middle class for this. Good news is there's lots of upper middle class people. Not as many as there used to be, but plenty of them, and they are your path to becoming one of them if you take this the right way. Grout cleaning, tile cleaning, sealing. After you're cleaning, putting down a sealant layer for things like that. I sold a house in Arlington back in 2009, 10, something like that. When I moved to Arkansas, we had white tile in our kitchen with white grout. I will never install that ever anywhere. It's horrible because the grout won't stay clean. We scrubbed the shit out of the dining room and the kitchen with that friggin' tile when we were ready to sell it. And the entryway had it too. It was a builder grade house, And it actually made it worse. When we cleaned it and you couldn't get it 100% clean, and a guy, the real estate agent we had, he's like, I know someone that does this professionally. And I think the guy wanted like $400. And I had worked my ass off, and I'm like, done. Have him. Guy came in. He had specific equipment. I can't remember exactly what to do it with. He left. It looked like it was installed yesterday. And he was only there a few hours. And I went, whoa. You know what they tell you to do after what I just said, right? Talk to every real estate agent in your area, especially the ones that focus more on selling than selling to. The ones that like to list properties. They're going to have this problem all the time. That's just how to do it. All right. So what I'm going to add to this now is the bonus. Do any of these. Come up with one of your own. And then become a salesperson for all the other ones. If I was doing, let's say, pool cleaning services, I'm probably not going to expend my pool cleaning services to taking care of gutters. They're too divergent. But I know I'm going to earn the trust of my customers. I'm going to be talking to people every day. I'm going to be in the field every day cleaning pools. So I'm going to talk to all the gutter companies. I'm going to find the one that most wants to work with me. And I'm going to negotiate a straight commission only agreement with them, with a contract. And I'm going to flip them as much business as I can. I'm going to be a salesman for others while I'm doing it for myself. I would probably, as a pool cleaner for above ground pools, most people that have those have a deck. You got to have a fence or the department of making. So I'm going to find a deck, fence, ceiling guy. Best guy I can find. And I'm going to basically build a catalog like the opening business. I'm going to transform any of these businesses into a catalog business. And I'm going to tell every one of my customers, if you need anything done here, talk to me before you do it. Now, let me ask you guys a question that have hired people to do work in your life and have had bad and good experiences. If you need something done and you can get a referral from a person you trust, do you want the referral? The answer is, unless you're not a special child, the answer is yes, you do. It's always a gamble when you buy from or hire somebody new. Most people do not understand when they're in any of these businesses that you are the ideal person to sell. And they will listen to you better than they'll listen to the 19-year-old kid that answered an ad in the Sunday paper who was given 1-day training and told to wear a nice shirt and given a clipboard and told to go out and get leads for roofing. When you say, man, that roof, Tom, that's looking pretty worn. And Bill's, Tom's like, yeah, I know. I really don't know that I can afford it, but it's going to need it soon. Well, I'll just tell you, I've got a guy when you decide you're ready to do this. He's going to listen to you before the kid that's at his door. You've earned your spot. You had to be the kid at the door, but you're not anymore. You're in a new warm market. Your cold market became their warm market. Now, this doesn't mean that you just become a huckster and flip shit everywhere, right? This means that you're like, I see an opportunity. If I find the right service side, I'll bring it in. If I don't find the right service side, then I won't do it. I'm going to talk to how am I going to find these guys? Frank, you had your roof done this week. That looks great. Who did it? Why'd you pick them? How did they do? Was there anything you didn't like about them? You're not their friendly girl with big titties from customer service that called to make sure they're okay, that they're going to lie to. They're going to tell you they did great, they did shitty, they did good except for. They're going to be completely honest with you. And when you do that, right, when you do that with them, and then you get a glowing review, and especially if you get two different customers who use the same person and they both are happy, now you can refer away. And in that line of work, that type of work, you're probably going to be small operator, but you're probably, if you can find other people like you who are good and reliable, which is hard, which is what your opportunity is, great. But most likely you're going to be flipping these services to larger companies, to branded companies that have been established a while. It's easy to get 20, 25% on a lot of those jobs because they have a salesperson, they're paying 10% plus a base salary or more. And they're only paying you when they get a job. And you're not bidding the job. You're going to flip the job. Listen, I'm going to set you up. It's up to you. I can't estimate the cost of your job. I'm not going to deliver you a PO. And so they might say, well, we'll only do 15%. I'll take it until somebody better than you gives me 20. There's a lot of opportunity, guys. All you got to do is get out of the house and get in somebody else's backyard. And there's 100 other businesses like this. There's 100 other businesses like this. And just remember, it's all good. It can all be combined, and the formula is largely always the same. It's all about throwing enough in the top of the funnel that enough purchases come out the bottom. Just like we talked about with the sales show last week. If you can sell and you can build a business at the same time. And so I really want you to take in what I finished up there with the bonus, because it is easier to sell something to your existing customer than to get a new customer. Well, if you can build a catalog without making the investment, the time commitment for service delivery, et cetera, by building a portfolio of adjacent businesses that you can put people in touch with, you can also work yourself toward total freedom. And what I mean by that is you can build your business, your brand, to the point where it's big enough and you build enough margin into it that the person that goes and cleans the pool isn't you anymore. You answer the phone, you pay the bills, you market the business. And at the same time, that's hard to do on your own, where the only thing you're selling is your product. You never really want to let go. You're too worried about not making enough money. But if I have multiple income streams out of this one office, but only one silo of them is the one I have to deliver, it's a ton of freedom. It's a ton of freedom. And it also builds me to the point where if I ever decide I don't want to do this anymore, I want to sell my business, I still have the referral base. I still have all these companies. I'm still the person that you talk to. See, I'm not going to put this under my brand. So when I sell my business to Oliver, right, and Oliver buys the business and he changes Jack's pools into Oliver's pools, I still have the relationship with the customers. I'm not going to refer anybody to a pool competitor, but I could still be running sales. Just no problem at all in that situation. Call me if you need something. I'm selling the business to Oliver, who's going to do a great job for you. But if you know me, if you need a handyman, if you need anything, I'm still kind of available. I'm going to be a handyman connector. I don't know, whatever you want to call yourself at that point. So there's a transitional component to that on an exit strategy. Or if you have somehow integrated it with your brand, like partnered, associates or something like that, right? well, then you can actually sell your business for more. So it helps your exit strategy either way. Anyway, guys, with that, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I only have 2 things for questions. I'm scrolling up like the last 20 minutes of comments real quick, see if anything sticks out. I don't see anything sticking out, so I'm going to go to these 2. Quenna Cowboy says, have you talked about window cleaning? Super low overhead. All the windows keep getting dirty. So if you do follow up with happy customers, you get recurring business. I will tell you that every handyman I've ever talked to that added window cleaning to what they do was very pleased with the results. I don't really know anybody that's in a window cleaning only business, though I'm sure that they exist. I know Toolman Tim talked about that service quite a bit and did well with it himself. It is a low entry point and it is a skill set. The main reason people end up hiring people to clean their windows is they clean their windows and they're streaked and they're angry. And it has to do with technique, the timing, and what you use to do the job. And so the timing is biggest thing is, and people do it all the time though, is you do not want to clean a window while the sun's beating on it. So if you get that right, yeah, you can do really well by that. Christopher says, how much am I restricted by my LLC description? I have an LLC and described as landscaping, but I want to include fences and handyman service. You're not restricted at all. You're not restricted at all. In fact, the charter for your business is something controlled by your board, which you are probably the sole member of. So you can change the charter of your business anytime. Now, when you register that business with the state, they may want a primary classification. You need to check with, your lawyer or your accountant on how strict that is, but it's probably not that strict. But you also will want to check with your insurance agent. It may be the case that you can add a service, but you're not insured for what goes wrong on it. That would be your most likely issue with that situation, though I'm not an attorney and everything is local and everything is different. Bill Hudson says, pet food, I guess, is a business opportunity. That's a fine one, but you got to do some spreadsheet work with that. When you start selling a product, you have a labor and materials quotient, and you need to make sure that you're making enough money that you can do enough volume to make enough money for it to matter. And what I mean is somebody will say, well, if I make this batch of dog food for $20 and I sell for $30, that's 50% margin. That's great. Okay. But it's $10. It's $10. How many customers do you have to make enough money for you to be worth you doing this business? That's all I'm going to say about that. It doesn't matter. Hanging laundry. What does my shirt say? This is the one from the Drinkin' Bros podcast. My wife wanted these, so I got us each one. And it's Trump, double bird, American sunglasses, and the term is you missed. You missed. And I don't have to be political to just get a little bit of satisfaction out of pissing people off with stuff like that. Anyway, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Real quick, I want to talk about our item of the day today. This would be good for a lot of people in these types of businesses, or any homesteader, anybody that has to ever do any work. Knipex Cobra pliers. These are basically the best tool you'll ever use like them. And they're designed very similar to the way for those that aren't on the video, that a channel lock pair of pliers are designed, where they adjust and they can get bigger and smaller. But they are, I hate even comparing them to channel locks, because channel locks are absolute dog shit compared to these things. First of all, they have a button that allows the adjustment of the jaws. And that means wherever you put them, they stay. And like, you ever have channel locks and you're like, come on, open. And then it like goes to open and it goes past, and then you try to get it back. This is like, you can literally with one hand adjust them. And when you let go of that button, they stay there. Number 2, the teeth are curved back. They call them Cobra. Well, they're like a snake. I guess they didn't want to call them the coolibrid because nobody would know what that is. But they have teeth more like a coolibrid snake or a python or a boid, like a boa, than they do a cobra that kind of arch back. And so when you grab onto something with them, they bite into it and they are so strong that a grown man like me can put them on. If as long as what you're clipping them on is going to hold your weight, you can stand on the back of a pair and it will not give. So whatever you grab onto, either it gives or it ain't going nowhere. They are just fantastic. My original exposure to them, J.R. Haley gave me a set of them as a gift last year. I immediately put them out on T-Spaz. I was that impressed with them. And then I started investigating the small, compact ones. The 6-inch model will fit in the front pocket of a pair of jeans, and it will still expand enough to comfortably get around a 3/4-inch bolt, which is the size of a garden hose, which is where I probably use mine more than anything else. It is amazing how much gap they gain. They really outperform themselves. I don't even carry a multi-tool anymore. I carry a small multi-tip screwdriver and a pair of these and a knife. And it's the pliers, and I don't care, Gerber, Leatherman, whatever. The pliers in those things compared to the little 6 or a 5-inch. The 5-inch is the smallest one that locks. The 5-inch version of these, it does 1,000 times more, 100 times more power. Just hugely flexible. Things that little pair of wire cutters won't ever do for you. Little needles will never do for you. They're not cheap, but they are a buy once, cry once type thing. They're made in Germany. They're fantastic. They're incredibly well thought of in the mechanic space, the trade space, the prepper space, the homesteader space. If you go look them up on YouTube, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos about them. Again, Knipex, Knipex, German-made, German quality, best tools I've probably ever used. And with that, I'll wrap up and remind you one more time, consider becoming an MSB member. If you support the show, we'll always be here for you. $50 a year, get your money back. Tomorrow I'll catch you with an interview. And do I have my interview in front of me? Yes, I think I do. August 14th. Yes, this is it. Charles Lafferty will be with us tomorrow, and we will be talking about agricultural grant writing and learning how to fund agricultural pursuits with the government's money, which really means getting your own money back to fund your own pursuits. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. This week, I guess we're going more in the business route of things, which is important. I did a show I'm doing today because I did nothing but problems yesterday. And we have some real problems coming. We are in the middle of the fourth turning. There is no doubt about it. And I think that our crisis this time is not going to be a war. For all the talk of World War III, it's going to be an economic crisis. Now, they often lead to war. But I think we are at the precipice of one of the greatest economic crises of modern times. And we're going to have to find our way through it. So being able to feed yourself and to be able to pay your bills no matter what happens, to earn money when other people can't, I couldn't come up with better survival topics than that. I'll catch you guys tomorrow with that interview.